Germany's coalition government has agreed to a mandatory quota for women on the boards of listed companies in what's being hailed as a landmark movement for Europe's biggest economy. Listed companies with management boards of more than 3 executive must appoint at least one woman to the C-suite, whatever that means. Basically, this is saying that companies, certain specific companies, have to put a minimum amount of women on their boards. Now, in principle, we all agree that women need to have, there need to be more women in these positions of power, because look anywhere, you're going to just see a bunch of old white men in these companies making these decisions. But having the government force that is a different question in itself.
Especially former Nazis.
So I agree with the idea, but the idea of government saying you have to put these people here is tough for me. I'm in the middle. Like, I don't know what's right or wrong. It's an open question.
Well, that's where my half a shout out goes, because I think that's a good idea, but definitely a well-intentioned idea, but good intentions don't always equal good policy.
Right.
Like, it is not your, like, it's not the country's job to run the board. It's the company's job, and whoever the company sees fit, that fits their company's, fucking, I don't know, model or whatever the hell you want to call it. Like, whoever fits. There is a problem that it is predominantly men. It's not knock all white people, Julian. It's a podcast for everyone. I don't think it's the government's place to do that.
This is where you and I are like more conservative, because we've seen time and time again, when a government tries to force its way into doing something, it usually ends up fucking it up. Like, I think of like bailouts, certain, I don't know, there's just so many things, like school funding, for example. Like, there's just so many examples where, yes, there's that intent, but the policy isn't applicable in practice. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. So if like, I feel like it can just branch out to, like, okay, a company is allowed to pick 2 of their own people. After that, the 3rd one has to be a woman. The 4th one has to be out of the country. The 5th one has to be this. It has to be a transgender. 6th one has to have a mental disability.
Right.
Like, where the fuck does it end?
Right.
Like, you are not running the company. You don't run the risk when this shit doesn't work out. So, half a shout out. Like, I definitely agree. There should be more women in powerful positions, because, men have fucked the last 4 years up.
So I guess the question then is like, if the government doesn't, then who does?
Are you talking about, like, maybe affirmative action wise?
Right. Like, that was the whole idea
Like,
behind.
they kind of, yeah, so it is kind of like affirmative action, but for business.
Right.
And that's kind of where I was thinking in the beginning, one of the things with when Bernie was running, that I kind of was on the mindset, like, if you're going to be doing business in this country, there are certain agreements you're going to make with this government. Like, you're going to abide by these rules or find a different market to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, kind of where it's not the most well thought out, but it's a good starting point. Like, people are worried about all the big companies leaving. Be like, okay, let the small companies take over. Like, countries around the world they market to us. We're one of the biggest markets in the fucking world. Like if they want to leave and not sell to us, or like if they want to leave and make it somewhere else, I'm almost halfway on board saying you can't sell it here, motherfucker. But that'll be screwing up the whole global shit. Global trade. I understand that, but if you're an American company and you leave to pay slave wages, I think it's well in our rights to be like, fuck you, you can't sell your shit here. There is some leeway on that argument. Like, if you are doing business here, you're going to agree to our terms. Then again, that's Germany, not America.
Right.
I don't know what their constitution entails. Probably no waiving of a certain type. Trying to be my well-known history people are out there.
Okay, but Ryan, I'm gonna go on a random tangent here off of what you just said.
Let's go.
So people sometimes hate when you say the argument that when does it stop? The idea that, well, is it going to stop with women? Is it going to stop with this? Is it going to stop with this? Is it going to stop with this? People usually hate that argument, right? But those
are my favorite arguments, the ones people hate.
True.
Prove it.
Don't. That needs to be a segment. Ryan Henry in Prove It. But to go off of that, when I was in France, there was discussion about the idea of the government in France banning the use, banning kids or girls from wearing hijabs, the scarf that women who are Muslim wear around their head. There was talk to ban the hijab in high school and middle school because they were saying
and on the beaches.
And on the beaches. And that's exactly what you and I, Ryan, are talking about, is that people are making a decision, like they're saying you can't follow your freedom of religion because like the government is forcing you not to follow your freedom of religion by saying you are not mature enough. Well, it's the family's decision. You can't tell somebody they can't wear a cross and then also tell them they can't wear a hijab. Like that's way too far. That's really way too far. And that's what we're talking about, is that the government is making these decisions for the population thinking what's right or wrong. Like, yes, we all believe freedom of religion is right, but you can't then choose, well, you can't wear this in school because we don't think that's right. And that's what I mean by going too far, because in principle, it might sound right saying, well, girls need to have more freedom, but that's way too far. Like, what are you talking about? What, you're saying Islam isn't free for women? Like, whoa, you're making that broad generalization without knowing what the fuck you're talking about? Look at Christianity, look at Catholicism, look at any fundamental religion. And that's what I mean by taking it too far, because, yeah, so sorry for the random rant, but that's what I mean. That's what I could see happening, just like what they're doing in France or attempting to do.
You shouldn't trust government. It's not. You shouldn't trust anything. Government should be up there number one.
Yeah.
And that I thought is being patriotic, at least in this country.
The whole idea of how we even toppled our former government,
Right. Exactly.
Are you trying to think of a good joke?
I was actually thinking of. It was kind of off subject. I was watching John Oliver talking about, the past election, and one of the things he said that kind of stuck out to me was like, there's a difference between people saying not my president and people saying not the president. Like, when Trump won, like, that was one of the thoughts. I was like, we weren't the best transition team either when Trump came in charge. But, old Johnny Boy put it in pretty good light. Like, people were saying not my president, like, as un-American as that could sound, like that. I get it. like I'd say not my. I don't know this guy. we don't do this here. Um, and then like not the president. That's kind of like just cutting against like the country.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
I don't know. Another liberal talking point by Ryan Henry.